Hi, I'm Dana Shoaf, editor of Civil War Times Magazine, and I'm back again. We had started the video just a few minutes ago, but we were approached by a person that works here at the cemetery who didn't realize we had permission, it was okay for us to be here. So we're starting over again. So I'm back with Melissa Winn for our second Facebook Live of our first Monday, and we started out on the facade or the front of one of the most distinctive structures on any Civil War battlefield that you're ever going to see, and that's the Gatehouse to the Evergreen Cemetery here at Gettysburg, the town cemetery. There's a lot of road noise out here, so again, let's walk back through the Gatehouse and we'll finish our story inside. So here it's a little quieter inside the cemetery. We can talk a little bit more easily. But the Gatehouse was built in 1855. The cemetery opened up in 1854. But the Gatehouse is a really interesting piece of architecture. It's built in the Italianate style, which was characterized by these wide eaves, a flat roof, and these rounded window tops. And it was sort of a very fashionable style in the mid-19th century, inspired by Italian villas in Europe. But even more interesting, and Melissa's going to pivot around to take a look at the Gatehouse, is the fact that it was a residence. And the North Tower, the one to your left, was where the caretaker during the Civil War and his family, Peter and Elizabeth Thorne, lived with their 3 children. Here's a picture of Peter and Elizabeth. She's going to be the star of the show, so to speak. They were immigrants from Germany. Peter is actually away during the Civil War in the 138th Pennsylvania, and Elizabeth is here by herself when the battle takes place. But it was a pretty good living for them. He made $150 a year as the caretaker, and they lived in this North Tower. The below grade level was their kitchen area, the ground level was their living room, and the 3rd floor was their bedroom. Her parents lived in the South Tower. Again, the below grade was a kitchen, but although she probably did most of the cooking, the middle floor was the cemetery office, and the 3rd floor was the bedroom for her parents. These additions that you see on the back date to our post-war. But again, Elizabeth is here by herself when the largest battle of the Civil War takes place literally in her front yard. Of course, we're standing on Cemetery Hill, which extends Cemetery Ridge, 2 of the most notable landmarks for the Union defensive position. She watches the battle begin on July 1st from her 3rd floor window as Confederate troops approach. And pretty soon, retreating Union soldiers are all over this area. Elizabeth is asked to help Union officers understand the road network. She will walk through the fields around here while shells burst overhead, showing the officers and explaining how the roads connect and where they go, and giving them advice as they set up their defensive positions. When the battle here begins in earnest, she's asked to leave. She will take her parents and her children, and they will go down the Baltimore Pike to an area of relative safety. And of course, as I mentioned in our first broadcast, heavy fighting literally takes place at her doorstep on the evening of July 2nd. And Melissa's going to pan across the road. We'll walk down here a little bit, and you can see how close those Union gun emplacements were to her house. And Confederates actually make it up into those gun emplacements. When Elizabeth arrives back here after the battle, she finds the house a mess. The windows have been shot out. The hogs that they kept here are gone. The house is a mess. There were wounded Union soldiers in the house, and the bedclothes are torn asunder. There's mud and blood everywhere. It's a tremendous mess. But her real ordeal begins after the battle, when she has to bury dead Union soldiers that were left in the cemetery. Remember, her husband is gone. So she has to bury these men with the help of her elderly father. They tried to hire guys and get men to help her, but they got sickened by the stench and left. So she ends up doing it mostly on her own with her elderly dad. The most amazing thing is that Elizabeth was 6 months pregnant when this happens. She's doing all this when she's 6 months pregnant. She helps bury 91 Union soldiers in this cemetery. Her sacrifice is commemorated by this monument we're going to take a look at. This monument is called the Gettysburg Women's Memorial, and it was put up in 2002. It was executed by sculptor Ron Tunison. Ron was an excellent sculptor, and he unfortunately died unexpectedly a few years ago. And it shows a very tired and worn Elizabeth wiping her brow as she takes a brief break from burying dead Union soldiers. Excuse the motorcycle noise. Ron put up 4 monuments on this battlefield. This monument, the Masonic Friends Memorial, a Delaware Monument, and also the monument to Brigadier General Samuel Crawford in the Plum Run Valley. He was a great sculptor. I had the pleasure of meeting him once, but again, unfortunately, he died very quickly. But Elizabeth will have her daughter shortly after the battle, and the daughter was named Rose Meade. I'll have to say, this guy must just have gotten his motorcycle because he literally couldn't turn it around and almost dumped it twice. And I was trying to hold a straight face as this guy was struggling to hold his big Harley up. Anyway, he's moved on. So her daughter was born shortly after the battle, but she only lived till she was 14. And Elizabeth said she was sickly all her life and attributed her early death and sickliness to the fact that she was under so much stress when she was pregnant with her daughter. The Evergreen Cemetery is a fantastic place to visit. It's, aside from that motorcycle, it's not too heavily trafficked, and it's very peaceful to come up here. There's notable people buried here. Jenny Wade is buried here, the only civilian casualty of the battle. John Burns is buried here, the crusty man that went out and fought with the 1st Corps on July 1st, 1863. James Geddes is buried here, the founder of Gettysburg, and this is where the speaker's podium was located for Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. And Melissa's going to pan quickly to the right, and you'll see there was even some Union artillery emplacements here in the cemetery. There are also, if you know where to look, there are still battle-damaged headstones here in the cemetery that were damaged during the battle. And a great book to get for that is Beyond the Gatehouse, Gettysburg's Evergreen Cemetery by Brian Cannell. It's a great short guide to the cemetery. It talks about Elizabeth's story and all the notable people buried here, and as well as the Gatehouse. This will be our last Facebook Live for today. I hope you've enjoyed this one and the earlier one if you happen to catch that. And join us for the first Monday in August when we will be in Virginia, again, trying to visit some lesser known sites that are still fascinating and very interesting. This is Dana Shoaf and Melissa Winn signing off from the Evergreen Cemetery at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.